So today I want to talk about a book that I finished reading a few weeks ago, and to this day I'm not quite sure what to think about it, and it just keeps coming up in my mind. It's a book by John Green. I have read a few books over the years by John Green. I'm well aware that they are mainly young adult, although I still think there's a lot of value in reading young adult, depending on what type of books, of course. Even now in my mid-30s, I still enjoy reading young adult fiction every now and then. I think there's a lot of value in it. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and often at times it's also nice to, read a light story, a light fiction book. But of course, John Green's book seldom are light. They deal with very deep and heavy subjects, heavy themes, and this book is no different. So from John Green, I haven't read a book of his for many years. I also think that he has not had a lot of new novels over the past few years. He's been, I guess, busy with his podcast and other ventures. In the past, I did read, I think the first one was probably The Fault in Our Stars, which is the most popular of his books, which is what brought him into the mainstream fame as well, with the amazing movie that I saw as well during that time. So I guess that's about, I don't know when that movie came out, but at least 10 years ago, I would say. And then that brought me into some of his other books that I also read. I did read and both loved Looking for Alaska. And I also very much enjoyed Paper Towns, although that movie I didn't enjoy at all. But the books, both of them, I enjoyed a lot. And it taught me that I very much enjoy his writing style. It's very witty. Usually the characters are very interesting. They have very unique personalities in all of his books. That's how I feel about it. But it also taught me that in each book, in each story, he is dealing with very serious, heavy subject matters. So I do think there's a lot of value in reading John Green, or even rereading John Green as an adult. I've had this book that we are talking about today. I had this book, I had a hard copy of this book for many years, and it's been on my bookshelf. And I've just never gotten to reading it. And then boarding a flight a few weeks ago, I said, okay, now is the time. Now I'm gonna read this story of John Green and see if does the story relate to me? Does the author still relate to me as it used to about 10 years ago? So I was actually very excited. And the book, of course, that we are going to talk about today is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. Came out in 2017, and as far as I know, this is the latest novel that was solely released by him. I believe that he had some cooperation with other authors for one or two books, but just only written by him. I think this was the latest release that we got from him. What confuses me about this book, what confuses me about this story, and what I just, trying to wrap my head around is, do I like it? And I'm not sure, because I think there's a lot of wonderful things in this story, but one of my main issues with Turtles All the Way Down is that what I would call the side story is much more interesting than what is supposed to be the main storyline of this book, which I've never felt this way about any book that I read, as far as I remember. So what is Turtles All the Way Down about? Turtles All the Way Down is set in the US, in Indianapolis. It's about a high school girl, Asa Holmes, or Asa Holmes, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I read the book, not the audiobook, so I'm not quite sure, but it's about this young, smart, intelligent young lady, Asa Holmes, who is dealing with everyday difficult of being a high schooler in the US, managing social life, managing schoolwork, and thinking about what the future could look right. And then over the time of the story, there are two themes that are repeatedly coming up. One of the themes is that it's dealing a lot with mental health. So Asa Holmes, she has, I believe, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and she's just, been dealing with mental health, especially, I believe, since her father passed away, but maybe even before that. And it starts out as manifesting itself in a few ways. She always, has to check if one of her fingers is bleeding, and then checking under the band-aid, and then yes, it's bleeding, she's cleaning it, she's disinfecting it, she's adding a new band-aid, and she's doing that multiple times a day. And at the same time, she's like a germaphobe, so she's worried about exchanging or being in contact with other people and exchanging bodily fluids and bacteria, and she, every time something happens, she just goes down this spiral, which is also where the name of the book, Turtles All the Way Down, comes from. That when she is in this spiral, she's not able to kind of get out of it, and it's just very exhausting. It makes her anxious, and she does not know how to deal with it, and she's been trying to deal with it in a proper manner. She's been taking meds on and off. She has been going to see a therapist to talk about her problems, but it doesn't really seem to be helping. However, the issue presented to us in the beginning of the book, while serious, does not make us feel like she is to a very high level impacted in her daily life. So we think, okay, this is just an additional part of what Asa Holmes is, of who she is, of how she is dealing with situation. It's kind of a subplot, I would say. And then the main plot of the story is that she has been, I don't know, a few years ago, she has been to some sort of summer camp where she met this guy, Davis Pickett. Davis Pickett has been growing up very privileged in a wealthy family. His father is like a real estate developer and a lot of other business dealings, and his family is basically the richest all over town. Then basically what starts off the story is that Davis Pickett's father is supposed to appear in court for numerous, I don't know, bad dealings and numerous embezzlements and whatever alleged financial troubles that he is responsible for in the company. And because of that, he disappears. Davis and his little brother, they also lost their mother at a very young age. So they are now suddenly without parents and are only supervised and supported by the staff of the Pickett estate, basically. And what happens then is there's an award for, finding any clues that is leading to the arrest or to the police finding Davis' father. And Asa, with the pressure from her friend Daisy, which we are getting into a little bit later, is then, trying to reconnect with Davis and to go after that award, that $100,000, because for her, of course, and especially also for Daisy, that would change a lot of things in their life. And through reconnecting with Davis, they grow closer together, and there's this first romance brewing, which is all very cute and nice, and that's all very interesting. But that's where my issue with this whole book is starting, because that storyline of Davis Pickett's father disappearing, and then also them searching for him, and Asa getting closer with Davis and having that kind of first romantic experience, that story is a lot less interesting than Asa's story dealing with her mental health, how it is impacting her life, and also the friendship between Asa and her best friend Daisy. Daisy, and Asa in the beginning, they are very close and inseparable and doing everything together, although they have very different personalities, but they have known each other from a very early age and just always been best friends and been there for each other. But then over time, it kind of starts to come out that Daisy has a lot of unresolved issues with the way that she's being treated by Asa and due to Asa's mental health issues. Asa basically always only focusing on herself, not really caring about, or at least not seemingly caring about Daisy's family, Daisy's problem, Daisy's situation, and Daisy is having issues. She is living in a quite poor situation. They always struggle with money in the family, and there's a lot of things that are difficult for Daisy because she just feels like she doesn't really have that support and connection from Asa anymore, and that puts a strain on their relationship. And over time also Asa's mental state starts worsening. It starts impacting her life more. It starts impacting her friendships in a negative way. It starts impacting her other relationships, also the relationship with Davis, the relationship with her therapist, the relationship with other students and people in her life are getting affected by the way that she just closes up and just goes into this spiral of thoughts that she can't seem to get out anymore, leading up to a very serious situation where people then actually get physically hurt, and leading to her thinking, well, how am I going to deal with this in my life? I want to go to college, I want to make something out of myself, but I can hardly ever even take care of my personal well-being, not to mention about the needs of my loved ones in my very surrounding. So this becomes a very serious issue for her, and I think exploring that part of the story, exploring her mental state and her dealing with that kind of disease, with that kind of compulsivity that she has these thoughts, is a lot more interesting to read in this book than the story of them trying to find Davis's father and a little bit of teenage relationship. It just feels like there's two books in this bind in here. There's two very different books in here. One of them I found interesting, very thought-provoking, but also very enjoyable of a read, and which I would have loved to explore further and explore deeper. And then the other story just feels like a young adult story that has been hastily slapped on top of that other part to make some sort of concise story or fiction to be able to tell a story from beginning to end. I don't think that works very well in this example here. I know that the book is very popular. It's nowhere near the popularity of some of the other works of John Green. I could never write at that level. I could never write a story like this, although I would love to be able to do it. It's difficult for me to judge a book like that in this way, which I understand, and a lot of people do love this story, which I also understand. But for me personally, I didn't connect with it. I didn't click with it, and I felt it was mostly due to the situation that those two separate stories are kind of stitched together. They don't really match, and one of those stories is a lot more interesting than the other one, at least for me. Nevertheless, I'm happy I finally read it after all those years on my bookshelf. I rated Turtles All the Way Down with 3 stars. It's an okay book. It's an interesting book. I still love John Green's writing style very much. There's a lot of humor in it as well. It's fun to read a lot of the times as well. It jumps back and forth between tragedy and comedy regularly, which is one of John Green's skills, I think. So while I was a little bit disappointed with the book itself, it was still an enjoyable read, and at no point I was ever in a situation where I thought, oh my god, is this book finally going to end? No, it was not. But for me, it was not a great book. It was not one of my absolute favorites, so I've given it three stars, and yeah, that's about it. Anyway, what did you guys think of Turtles All the Way Down? How do you think this book compares to John Green's other works? Do you know of any new books coming out soon by John Green? Let me know your comments down here below, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.